Alright, so here we are in the next installment of our building a modern day house with sound structure and design, at least according to me. This is the second video. This is what we did in the first one. If you haven't seen it, there's the link. You'll see it. And that we just accomplished this. We've dug out the basement, put in the foundation, and put in utilities connections for redstone power and plumbing. Very rudimentary form of plumbing. So what I want to do in this video is do the next step, which is framing. We're at least going to frame the basement and put up some wiring. So it's going to use a lot of wood, like a lot of wood. So we have, the reason that I have a preponderance of wood right now is because this whole area used to be a forest. It's been leveled, made room for these lands, these plots, and even with that, we've used a lot of wood. So let's just go to the sawmill real quick. And here we are at our lumber farm and lumber mill. So we got a tree farm here and water powered sawmill. We've got the water wheel right there. And we got a bunch of our oak here. We're gonna need, we'll take all of this. We're gonna need quite a bit, but we're gonna use the stripped oak logs for support and cross beams. We are going to need quite a bit of wood as well. Let's get this, while that's doing its work, maybe we can try to get some more lumber. So you can use any wood that you want. We have a bunch of birch, but I like how the oak planks look like construction wood. At least that we see most commonly here. We'll want some, I like to use acacia planks as well for a very special reason that we'll see. And yeah, so we're gonna use a lot of wood. So I'll do the math once I'm done with the build and see exactly how much, but it's a lot. So again, this is a build for the late game when coming by materials is pretty easy. So we'll just get started with what we've got available here. Take as much wood as we can get from our sawmill. So part of the reason so much time has elapsed since the last video, apart from being busy, was I was working on an actual floor plan and engineered design. Because while it does take a lot of time to make this design, once you have the design, it's easy to replicate instead of having to go back through my old build, tear things apart, reverse engineer everything, try to remember what I did, and then I can just look at this document and follow everything there. So it's a layered document. I just did it with paint. I don't have, if I had AutoCAD, I'd probably do it in AutoCAD, honestly, just because that's how I am. But at least with MS Paint, there's layers. It's pretty easy to do pixel art, which is what I did here, and I'm just more familiar with it. There's probably other programs that could be more efficient with it, but regardless, this is what I have. So What we're going to do is we're going to put the support beams in and the cross beams, and then we're also going to put in the studs and the beds for the bed paths for redstone wires for the lighting, and install the junction boxes there. We'll see how long that takes. I want to do at least the basement. The first and second stories I have not yet designed while I'm making this video, so we'll see how far we get. So it's going to be pretty easy with this document that we got. I got measurements down and everything, but for sure we've got the corners. And I realized this after the fact that I made it, that we probably actually want the support beams to be at least 1 meter down. So let me just mark these first. This corner. Okay. And according to our schematic, these are going to go, these are all the posts for the support beams, and these are all going to be 9 meters above the foundation. So let's count 9 up from each of these. Like I said, we're going to use a lot of wood, but we want our house to be stable. Okay, so here's all of our support beams. Now we're going to do the cross beams, and these cross beams are going to be our, what we would call, load bearing beams. They're going to support the basis of the frame of our house. So according to the plan, each cross beam is going to have, or each support pillar is going to have 2 cross beams. The first cross beam is going to be 2 meters below the top. We'll have one here. Have one, nope. Have one there. So now need a cross beam here. Great. So I just remembered that there is a caveat to one of our beams. So let me go grab some materials real quick. So the caveat is with one of our headers, it's going to be a little different. Going to turn on layer. And you'll see that we have a fireplace. And the way the fireplace is designed, it needs a gap. Needs a gap for the smoke to leave and be ventilated. And so we're going to change something with this header right here. But before we do that, that header, instead of being braced by support beams, we'll actually take this off, take this section out, and the ends of the beams will be supported by the masonry of the fireplace itself. And the chimney is going to be like this. But for that reason, these beams need to go away, just so there's not wood that's in contact with the high temperatures. Durable metal. I want to have a whole wooden layer for the ground. I think, I'm not sure in real life if this is how it's done. Sometimes I feel like carpet is just placed right over foundation, but I could be wrong. I think there's a thin layer of wood that separates, but this is how we're doing it. The water's going to come out into a basin. We don't want the water coming out onto wood. We want it coming out onto stone. And you can do this out of any material you want. Probably something that, not like wood though, that's gonna be, you know, rotted. Since I've got cobblestone, I think we'll just use the cobblestone. So, similar to the fireplace, we want the water to come out at least 2. There it is. And I think we'll also put another layer here just to help with water backsplash. There we are. Don't have a bucket on me, but we'll make these source blocks when we get to it. So for now, back to the flooring. Alright, so the flooring is done. The cross beams are good. We're feeling pretty good here. And I know it's Minecraft that it doesn't really matter, but it just feels sturdier. And it will only get better as we go. So now we're going to actually install some light switches and get the redstone wiring for those that we need. So first let's start by placing where we're going to put our light switches. So we're going to have one here and in this corner. And this corner. Okay. So here's all of our light switches. The way we're going to install the wiring for these is pretty simple. I'm going to have a 2-block gap here. I'm going to put a temporary post like this. And then with slabs, you can alternate. Nope. This, that, this, that. And that's where we're going to keep it like that, actually. And the redstone wire is going to go here. It's going to power this block. We're going to put a redstone torch up here, and we're going to put a toggle of that, but we'll get to that in a minute. Right now we're just doing the framing, so let's do that for the rest of these. What we're going to do is we're going to lay the paths for the redstone, and I'm going to use acacia slab to mark blocks that have redstone on top of them, because it's really lame if you're digging around through your house once it's built and you break a block that had redstone on it, and maybe you don't realize it right at the time, and then you have to go digging around and hunting for the missing piece, and it can be a little hectic, especially with a build such as this. So we're just going to do this with a different block. Speaking from someone with experience. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I accidentally put 11. I was worried I messed up my plan. 11. And then 2 up like this. The 5 gap here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2. Perfect. And these are going to be light fixtures, so let's mark those like so. Okay. Three, then 5. 3, 4, 5, and then a 6th one. Perfect. 3-meter gap here. Same distance. On either side. Great. So these, we now know where all of our lights are going to be. We'll have redstone wiring go through them all. The next thing to do, what am I thinking? We actually want buttons, not levers. That's the whole point of this. Right. Let's do this one first. Oh, we gotta connect this, don't we? Almost. Okay, so basically this is the main power. It comes in and it's going to feed a main circuit, which that doesn't go there actually. It's going to feed this main circuit, and then every switch is going to toggle. That will complete a circuit. And the way that we're going to do this is this button is going to toggle a copper bulb with a comparator. This way, other way. Like so. And it's going to put so the comparator is going to read the signal. So what's going to happen is the redstone pulse will travel through here. We'll have a torch there. It'll power the copper bulb, and the copper bulb works as a 1-block toggle flip-flop. The comparator will read when the copper bulb is on and will output a signal. We'll put a sticky piston like this, and that will engage. Actually, we need to make this, connect this, and will extend to this point here. And we'll have a repeater here that when the whole building is connected to power, will flow through here. Power these blocks and the lamps that go underneath them. So let's make sure that this is working as expected. There we go. Aha! So that's the mechanism behind all of our light switches. And we're going to do basically the same thing for all these other light switches. So let's go and do those. I'm using the beams as much as possible. So that does mean using some repeaters that otherwise wouldn't be strictly necessary, but it's a design choice. There we go. Stick a piston here. We actually don't need this right here. There we go. That room is done. Have a comparator. Go like that. And output like that. There we go. So similar to the redstone, we're going to lay down a path for our ventilation tube, birch blocks, and I'm just going to lay down a path according to the plan that I've got on the same level as the redstone. Waxed copper grate for the tube, if only just because it is a porous block. Air can pass through it, fluids can pass through it. And we now have our AC unit right there. Okay, so we're out here. We've got some errands to run, some supplies to go for the next part of our build. We are looking to pick up insulation and sheetrock to finish the framing of the basement. And to do that, first I'll just show you our textile mill that we've got over here. And here it is. So we've got all of these stalls with sheep connected to automatic shearers. So you've got underneath each dispenser is an observer that is watching the block right there. And every time that block updates, so whenever a sheep eats the grass on it and the grass disappears, or when the grass grows, it triggers the observer. The observer fires the dispenser, which is loaded with the shears, drops the block, and then we have our perpetually running wool collection that goes up and deposits them into this chest here. So I already grabbed a bunch of white wool and yellow wool. I've only got one yellow sheep. I'll probably change that, but I like to keep white to keep things versatile. You can just dye the wool that you need. I've done it with a bunch of other colors before, but you probably want to do that only for the wool blocks that you're going to use the most often, because you do it with magenta wool, for example. You're not really going to be using magenta wool unless you're trying to do some pixel art thing or something, which I don't usually do. So for our purposes, white, yellow, pink, black, gray, light gray, and brown tend to be the most commonly used building colors for me. And then you can just make the dyes and dye the white wool the color that you want. To that point, we have a cocoa farm here and cactus farm here for some of the more special dyes. So we're going to need more yellow dye. So we're going to go to our flower farm and see what is in stock. The flower farm is in another part of town, another district, the industrial sector. So let's pay a visit over there. And here we are, in front of our castle. We have a whole array of automatic collection. So let's hitch up here. Alright, so this is the premise behind this automatic flower farm. This is a design I came up with myself. It probably exists elsewhere, but this is my own version. The clock might be a little bit off, server side issues, but essentially we've got a redstone clock. It's supposed to trigger. It's supposed to grow some flowers, and it's supposed to quickly retract. Bone meal dispenses into the blocks. Some flowers come not long after. Water breaks all of the grass and pushes them into the hoppers to collect below. So yeah, it's working pretty well. It's been a while since this has been taken. So, oh, even the hoppers are full. Okay. We're also in a plains biome, as you see in the top left. And the great thing about the plains biome is that there's a greater variety of flowers that show up here. So you'll get your allium, you'll get your blue flowers, the cornflowers, and so forth. I'm going to build one of these in a meadows biome. I know where one is, just so we can get and farm some of those other more colorful flowers, not just for the dyes, but also for... It's nice just to have those flowers. for landscaping purposes and stuff. I just noticed that our power lines are oxidizing. I didn't know that they did that. There must be a new part of 121.11. Interesting. I'll have to decide what I think about that. So yeah, it's just a bunch of lightning rods. Because we had so much copper. Might as well. Probably do it with copper chains too, but those didn't exist when we first put those power lines in. Alright, here's what we're going to do. We're just going to fill in all of the gaps that's between the studs and the ceiling with yellow insulation. I've seen people do it with pink too. I just always remember growing up seeing it in yellow, so that's what I'm doing here. At least for the residential houses. Put this insulation all up through all the gaps. Preserve the wiring. This is also going to fill the quintessential role of preventing spiders from moving in as much as possible. Because the last thing that we want is to hear the sound of a bunch of spiders living in between our floors. That's a no-go. Now, I'm just going to put the sheetrock in, and we're just literally going to fill in the gaps between the studs. Like so. And even with my planning, I foresee an issue with the placement of the lever. What is that issue? There's supposed to be a layer of drywall here. And if the drywall's there, it's not going to open the thing. So either my plans were wrong or I just miscounted. Probably I miscounted. So I will have to fix that again at another point. Just goes to show you that sometimes even the best laid plans have their problems. I should have foreseen that one. So the other thing is that yes, we're building this a lot more involved than is necessary, but that doesn't mean we can't be economical. And concrete, which is the block that we're going to be using for the drywall, can be a somewhat expensive product because it requires gravel and sand, and we're going to need a lot of it. So that also means we don't want to use any more concrete than we strictly need to. And for example, we're going to put some buffer corners like this, because if this is concrete, for example, when we put that layer down, that wood column's not even going to be visible. So we're not going to put concrete in the columns. So we're going to do this second stage of framing where we're going to put them in corners that will be hidden, and also this rim along the ceilings because it's for the same reason. We're going to put sheetrock or concrete ceilings, and they're going to meet this layer here, and this beam over here won't even be seen. And this will save us quite a not insignificant amount of drywall. So let's just do that. It's kind of silly because it's just a video game, but this feels like it's more sturdy. And sometimes I can it's almost like I can smell the construction. If you've ever been walking through a house that was being built, one of our houses growing up was getting built, and I remember walking through it, visiting it, and seeing the progress. And just you smell the wood, you smell the sawdust, you smell the drywall. It's a good industrious smell, and sometimes this is realistic enough to trigger those memories in my in my brain. And there we go. So now the basement is nearly done, at least for the framing. The last step we'll do is we'll just put the flooring in for the ground floor, and for that I think we are literally just going to use wood. Put the floor in. It would be more economical to use slabs here, but the wooden blocks, the plank blocks, feel a lot more sturdier. The flooring is done, and the basement framing is done, and we can do the ground floor now. I'll have that design up in a little bit. I think we'll just leave this here for now. It's framing the other floors is going to be pretty similar. Probably won't spend as much time on it. It's just getting the design structure down and following the design. I'll also fix the lever for the water main. But here we are, making progress. So let's yeah, we'll do the ground floor next. Alright, till next time. We'll keep this coming. Keep it chugging along.